On the 10th of June 1990, British Airways Flight 5390 was heading towards Spain from Birmingham Airport in England. At the controls were 42-year-old Captain Tim Lancaster and co-pilot Alastair Aitchison. Also on board were 81 passengers and 4 cabin crew. After a routine takeoff, Lancaster handed over control to Aitchison and released his shoulder and lap belts. Just as flight attendant Nigel Ogden entered the cockpit, there was a loud bang, and while those in the cockpit didn't know it at the time, the cockpit had suffered explosive decompression, as the left windscreen panel, the one on Lancaster's side, had separated from the front of the plane. In the instant that it happened, Lancaster was sucked out of the small window and forced head first out into the open air. The only thing that stopped him from being completely ejected from the plane was that his knees got caught on the flight controls. That was the good news. The bad news was that the whole upper half of Lancaster's body was outside the aircraft, exposed to extreme wind and cold. When the window blew out, the autopilot disengaged, which caused the plane to descend rapidly. Flight attendant Ogden grabbed Lancaster's belt and held onto him to stop him being sucked completely out of the plane, while the other 2 flight attendants secured loose objects, reassured passengers, and instructed them to adopt brace positions in anticipation of an emergency landing. The co-pilot, Aitchison, also leapt into action. He regained control of the aircraft and began a rapid emergency descent in order to get to an altitude with sufficient air pressure. With the plane now at a safer altitude, Aitchison's thoughts moved to alerting the outside world of what was going on. He put the plane back into autopilot and put out a distress call, which was duly answered by the nearest traffic control. The problem was, with all the noise going on in the cockpit from the galing wind, Aitchison couldn't hear any responses coming through to him. While Aitchison continued to try and get instructions, Ogden was still holding on to Lancaster, whose upper torso was being battered on the outside fuselage. Ogden was exhausted and dislocated his shoulder from holding on to Lancaster against the pull of the turbulence, and also began to show signs of frostbite, so 2 other members of the crew took over holding on to Lancaster's legs and trying to get him back inside. The crew believed that he was dead, but Aitchison told them to continue holding on to him, out of a fear that letting go of him might cause him to get sucked out completely and hit the wing, engine, or stabilizer. Eventually, Aitchison was able to hear the clearance from air traffic control to make an emergency landing at Southampton Airport. Once the plane had landed, the crew and emergency services made an incredible discovery. Lancaster was still alive. He had frostbite, severe bruising, shock, and fractures to his right arm, left thumb, and right wrist, but miraculously, he had survived the ordeal. This dramatic episode was investigated, and it was found that 84 of the 90 bolts holding the windscreen in place were the wrong type and too short. The undersized bolts were unable to withstand the air pressure difference between the cabin and the outside temperature during the flight, and thus triggered the blowout. Lancaster and Aitchison continued to fly for many years afterward, with Lancaster retiring in 2008 and Aitchison in 2015 on his 65th birthday. No doubt, in the years that passed after the incident, there were many pub conversations that started with, "Well, that's a great story, but did I ever tell you about the time I got sucked out of a plane and lived to tell the tale?"